The integrated planning process provides a step-by-step approach to activity planning. It was developed by Steve Barron and presented at the IPMA Congress 2007 in Rome. The important feature of this process is that it presents important linkages between the established components of the planning process. Often these linkages are omitted by authors of project management texts. We start with project definition, which defines the purpose and goals of the project. The key components of the project definition process that link to the activity plan are the project objectives with their associated measures of success and the benefits and value that define the project scope. These help to define the products and deliverables that start the activity planning process. As we start activity planning, we need to identify the activities required to complete the project. The complete list of activities will not be known until the project is complete, but we must start by identifying as many of the activities as possible. There are a number of ways to identify the activities, including involving experts and brainstorming. One important way to identify activities is to consider the interdependencies between the activities and identify the logical flow through the project. The diagrammatic representation of the logic flow helps to identify missing activities as well as any duplicated work. Combining these approaches to identifying activities provides a good start. Once we've identified the list of activities and how they interconnect, we have completed the first step in activity planning. However, later development of the activity plan might require us to revisit this stage and update where necessary. We might go around the activity planning stages a number of times before we have a balanced and complete plan that gives confidence to proceed. The activity and flow information provides sufficient foundation to move to the next stage. Once we have a comprehensive list of activities, we can start formal risk planning. Risk is informed by how we intend to complete each activity, as well as how activities are interlinked. Risk is influenced by the resources allocated to an activity. If we allocate an apprentice to a piece of work, this will present different risks to the same activity allocated to an expert. We must consider both activity and allocated resource when assessing risk. Once resources have been allocated to an activity and the risk assessed, we can develop estimates. The time duration and cost of an activity will depend upon the resources allocated, and the accuracy of the estimate will depend upon the associated risk. We must make sure that these three components of resource allocation, risk, and estimations are balanced to satisfy the project requirements. Do we have significant risk that is unacceptable to stakeholders? Does the completion time and overall cost fit within the project constraints? Is the resource allocation fitting within resource availability to produce the necessary performance outcomes for the project? We might need to revisit each of the elements within this stage until we have acceptable risk, resource allocation, and resulting time and cost estimates. As responses to risks are developed, we will introduce mitigation actions that need to be included in the activity list or work breakdown structure. These new activities will need to be further considered for their effect on risk, and we will have to repeat the first stage of activity planning. These two stages represent a considerable amount of development for the project and provide the majority of the content for the activity plan. Once we're comfortable with the plan so far, we can continue to the next stage. Many people involved in projects jump straight to this stage without doing the preliminary thinking of identifying activities, allocating resources, assessing risks, and developing accurate estimates. Once we have data about activity logic flow and time and cost estimates, a schedule and budget is easy to construct. Using a project planning app, we can input activity into connection data with activity duration to produce a schedule. Then we can overlay cost estimates to produce a budget schedule for the project. What could be a difficult stage in planning is greatly simplified by some informed preparation. The only remaining tasks needed to complete the activity plan is to check that the project time and cost are within project constraints, check resource availability against the schedule, and to check that the cash flow represented by the budget schedule aligns with the cash availability within the company. The overall activity plan should be rechecked to ensure all the project requirements have been addressed and the activity plan is achievable and acceptable. This process presents an integrated approach to planning a project that is portable across industries and project types to produce a robust and comprehensive activity plan.